जय राधा माधवा कुंज विहारी। जय राधा माधवा कुंज विहारी। गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन। यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन। यमुना तीरा वनचारी। जय राधा माधवा कुंज विहारी। गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन। यमुना तीरा वनचारी। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे रामा 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे रामा 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे रामा 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 हरे हरे। कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे हरे, हरे रामा 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 हरे हरे। ओम ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमती जयपताका स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमती भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे, निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद, श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। पंचकल्पतरुभ्यस्य कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। Okay, Hare Krishna, everybody. Nice to see everybody. Is anybody here for the first time? Okay, well, welcome. Thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you for joining us on our Sunday. So let me take a deep breath. It's been a very, very hectic day. Like I said, I'm the Sunday school teacher, so the kids are working on something. Gaur Purnima is coming up, not tomorrow, but the next Monday. We hope you join us. It is a very special day for us. It's the Parents' Day of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's going to fall on me? Okay, there. Mukham karoti vachalam pangum kammagaleti. Mokam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yat kripa tamaham vande Sri Gurum Tiratarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om.
This ground mic is better for the outside, so I'm going to put some batteries and come back.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. Okay. Haribo. Okay. So recently, somebody sent something on Facebook, not on my WhatsApp message, and the message was, and I can't say exactly, but verbatim, something similar. Said, if devotional service was based on birth, then how could have Vidura been a pure devotee? He was the son of a servant. How could Narada become a pure devotee? He was also the son of a servant. It said if it depended on the kind of body you had, then how could Gajendra become a devotee? How could Hanuman become a devotee? If learning was the criterion, then how did Haridas, who was a Muslim, become a devotee? And I thought, wow, that's really beautiful. And then I thought, yeah, but that was a long time ago, and that's all fairy tale. Skeptical me. That's fairy tale. I don't even know if that's true, really. I mean, so they say, right? And then I thought about it, and then I thought about this verse. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauradushe Namaha. The translation goes, I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya, who is more magnanimous than any other avatara or incarnation of the Supreme Lord, even Krishna himself, because he is bestowing freely what no one else has ever given, pure love of Krishna. And I thought about this verse, and I was thinking, what does that mean? So I want to read something to you from, this is by His Grace Gauranga Darshan Prabhu, and it's Chaitanya Pravaha. And it says, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is also called Mahavadanyaya, or the most munificent incarnation of God. He is an emblem of unlimited and unconditional compassion. He bestows the highest boon, the treasure of love for Krishna, in the mood of the residents of the Vrajavasis, even to the sinful people. This most confidential treasure was never offered before. By personally performing exclusive loving devotional service to Lord Krishna, the Supreme Teacher, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, guided humanity to the highest goal of Krishna Prema. Further, through his close associates like the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, he expounded the science of Bhakti Yoga. He spread Nama Sankirtana, or congregational chanting of Krishna's names, the topmost means of reaching God in this age of Kali, as the Yuga Dharma, or the practice for spiritual emancipation. So I looked at those things and I thought about, okay, so what are these 4 things? Munificent. What are these 4 things that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or 5 things Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is known for as being the most munificent? And so they are: 1, he bestowed unlimited compassion and unconditional love to everybody he met. He bestows the highest boon for Krishna in the mood of the gopis, even to the sinners. He expounded the science of bhakti. He spread the Sankirtana Yajna movement, right, the congregational chanting of the holy name. And he personally performed devotional service so that he can show us how a devotee is supposed to behave. So then I thought about, in the life of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we can see that he also showed how birth did not matter, learning did not matter, your station in life did not matter. You take the incidents of Haridas Thakur. He is known as the Namacharya of the Mahamantra. In other words, he was the one that showed how it should be chanted and the power of it. He was born in a Muslim family, but he got pure devotional service. Now we have to understand, this was in a time where it was very rigid, the system was very rigid as how one was allowed or able to get transcendental spiritual knowledge. It depended upon birth. It depended upon your station in life. It was very rigid. There was a rigid process of how you were to progress on this spiritual path. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, yes, that's all fine and good. He didn't negate any of that, but he said, I have something better that's simpler, specifically for you now. He gave it to Haridas Thakur, a Muslim, the Namacharya. Now, the 6 Goswamis, Sanatana Goswami and Rupa Goswami, they were both actually excommunicated from their society. They were born in a Hindu family, very high-class family, very intellectual, very well-read. But they were ostracized from their society because they had taken service, or taken employment under the Nizam, or under the Muslim ruler. So that immediately negated you from having any position in a Hindu society. Now at that time, they were given the instructions of the basis of Krishna consciousness. He gave them personal instruction about Bhakti Yoga. Again, somebody who was ostracized. In his travels in South India, he traveled to Sri Rangam, and there was actually an illiterate Brahmana who was reading the Bhagavad Gita. He actually did not know what he was doing. He did not know how to read. And everybody knew that he didn't know how to read. And they were kind of making fun of him, saying, what are you doing with the book? You don't know how to read. It's a sham. And he was saying, my spiritual master has told me that I need to read the Bhagavad Gita. And even though I don't know what I'm reading it. As he was reading it, he's crying. Copious tears were falling. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes and says, why are you reading it? And why are you crying? And he says, I'm reading it because my spiritual master gave me these instructions. And he says, I'm crying because when I think about Krishna giving instruction to Arjuna and how he is on the battlefield. Now you have to understand, Krishna is the charioteer of Arjuna, his devotee and his disciple. They are on the battlefield fighting. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's giving instruction to his disciple. And now, during the war, the charioteer, when he's driving the chariot, he doesn't know whether to go right or left. Like he's driving, but like a chauffeur, the person in back, the fighter has to say, go right, go left. Well, do you know how the fighter in the back tells the charioteer to go right and go left? Yeah. Does anybody have any idea? Sorry, Prabhu? Yeah. He kicks him on the right shoulder if he wants him to go right. He kicks him on the left shoulder if he wants him to go left. Kicks him in the center of his back if he wants to go straight. This is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, acting as the charioteer for his disciple, and being allowed to be kicked because this is his position to serve his devotee. And this devotee who was listening to this was just feeling how much love the Lord must have had for Arjuna to be able to do that. And according to the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has that love for me. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, you have understood the import of the Vedas. He got devotional service, an illiterate. You have the Kurmakshetra Brahmana, who's a householder. Again, remember, strict process of going through. Householders had to go through brahmacharya, householder life, and then vanaprastha, which is which vanaprastha is retired life, and then a sannyas, and then he gets spiritual knowledge. How many of us are going to take sannyas? Raise your hand. Well, there's our some, but yes, some people are going to get sannyas, but I can't take sannyas, okay? I am a householder, okay? So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tells his householder, the Kormaksheta Brahmana, he comes there, he spends the day with the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes to his home, and the Kormaksheta Brahmana says, I want to come with you. I want to follow your process. I want to come with you. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tells him, no, you stay where you are. You stay where you are, you do your duty, and you preach to everyone you come in contact with about my glories and chant Hare Krishna, a householder. So even in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life, we see all these examples of how a ordinary person can become a devotee, right? And one more. Besides Jagan Madai, which we've always talked about, and you know the two drunkard brothers who were the worst hooligans, and of course they were saved. How about the woman who stood on the shoulders of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in order to see Jagannath in Jagannath Puri? She had no clue he was. She didn't even know he was a person. She thought he was a column. So she climbed on top of him, okay, to look at the Lord. She was just so immersed in the Lord. Did Chaitanya Mahaprabhu say, "Don't get off my shoulder, you're a woman, how can you," did he do that? His disciple was telling them, was trying to get her off. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, just let her be. He understood her mood. Compassion. That is the compassion that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed. So we see that. Again, we can say, that was so long ago. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, again stories, skeptical me. I don't know he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, I'll take you at your word. But then you take one more step, and we look at Srila Prabhupada, and we look at his life, and we look at the mood and the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and we look at the mood and mission of Srila Prabhupada, and how he followed the footsteps of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now, again, when Srila Prabhupada came across the ocean to the United States, he's born in a very upper-class family. According to tradition, Sastric tradition, if you cross the ocean and leave India, you become ostracized from your society. You are no longer accepted, is what was thought of at that time. He was willing to do that. Now, what did he do when he came here? Now, many other different spiritual leaders might have come, did come. But where did they start their preaching? Where did Srila Prabhupada start? Can somebody tell me, where did Srila Prabhupada go? Who did he preach to? Yeah. Right. The dregs of society? Yes, at that time. Those that have been ostracized by society? Right. All those who were the druggies, who were the hippies, who nobody wanted to come in contact with, who people thought were worthless, just like Jaga and Madai. And yet Srila Prabhupada went there. And did he bring down the heavy hand? No. In his love and compassion, he didn't even give them any rules or regulations, you know that? He didn't do any of that. He just told them, chant Hare Krishna. And he would talk to them. And, of course, he would cook prasadam. He would cook the dinner, offer it, it would be prasadam, and he would serve it. He would even clean up after them. Now, you have to understand, as I said, he comes from a high-class family. First of all, we from Indian backgrounds know that many times the men don't even pick up their own plates. They're not allowed to according to culture. Much less picking up somebody else's plate. Much less picking up somebody else's plate who's not even in your class. Not even on the schedule there. I mean, they are way down at the bottom. This is compassion. Could we do that? Could I do that? I wonder. I myself wonder if I would do that. You know, another thing that came to my mind, and it was about, I don't know how many of you are Catholic or either practicing or know the Catholic faith or anything. So just this past Wednesday was Ash Wednesday, yes? And so Ash Wednesday is the beginning of Lent. So Lent is 40 days, for those who don't know. Ash Wednesday, people go to the church. And I recall this because as I was driving somewhere, I saw this line of cars, and I saw ashes on a sign, all these line of cars going up. And I'm thinking, oh, it's Ash Wednesday. Many times people would ask me, why do you wear your tilak? Because I wear tilak all the time. I wear my kumkum all the time. I'm like this all the time. So people ask me, what does this represent? And so I explain to them. The closest thing that I can explain to them to this is because most are Christians or Catholics or Westerners. Right? I said, do you know what Ash Wednesday is? And they say, kinda. I mean, I know I do get ashes on my head and go there once, you know, I don't know, sometime. And I said, you know, so the reason they do that is a reminder for them of what Jesus has done for them, right? That he sacrificed his life for them. And to remind them about this and to sin no more, basically. And so I saw this sign, and I was thinking about that. And I started thinking about another thing Srila Prabhupada said. You know, Srila Prabhupada said, it didn't matter. It says, okay, let me find that part. He said, it doesn't matter what religion you are. Let's see if I can find where it is. It doesn't matter what religion, and this is in a class that he gave in London. It says, that is first class religion. That is first class religion. It doesn't mean that you follow this religion or that religion. You may follow any religion. It doesn't matter, either Hindu religion or Christian religion or Mohammedan religion, anything you like. But we have to test. Nobody should inquire to which religion you belong. One must see whether he has learned this art, how to love God. That's all. This is religion. So this got me thinking about, you know, the ashes. I saw that, thinking about Jesus Christ, thinking about, you know, what is Lent about. And so during this time, you know, Jesus goes to the desert, and he's doing all this austerities and stuff, you know, getting himself prepared for what's to come. And so what Christian Catholics do during this time is they actually, did you know that they originally abstained from eating meat every Friday? Then later on it changed to the 40 days of Lent. They should stop eating meat on Fridays. I did not know. This is interesting. It is a time when they study Scripture more. It's a time when they actually have to do charity work. And they discuss about God. So they study the Bible. This is what Srila Prabhupada means, to understand what your true religion is. And so that got me to thinking about, okay, what about Jesus Christ? What about him? And so, many of you may know this story about the Jesus and the prostitute. She comes and she bathes his feet with her tears and with perfume, you know, really, really expensive perfume. And she wipes his feet, and then she leaves. Now Solomon, who is, and he accepts this, Solomon, who is his, I guess, disciple, right? He says to the Lord, but Simon, the host, was offended by her coming and treatment of the prophet in this unorthodox manner. He wanted to avoid people like her. Jesus then told Simon an astonishing story. A man loaned money to two people, 500 pieces of silver to one and 50 pieces to the other. But neither of them could repay him, so he kindly forgave them both, canceling their debts. Who do you suppose loved him more after that? Simon replied, I suppose the one with the bigger debt forgiven. You have judged correctly. What is the moral of the story? The more forgiveness one receives from Jesus, the most costly love one can offer back to him. Those that have gotten to the bottom of the barrel, who have suffered the most and have been given this benediction of Krishna consciousness, who've chanted the holy name of the Lord, can really feel that. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu knew that. He knew they needed it the most, and they would appreciate it the most, right? It's only when you've worked so hard that you really understand the power of it. For those who it's so easily given, it's not so valuable. They don't appreciate it so much. Maybe, some cases. But this is an example. So then, going back to Srila Prabhupada, so I said, like I said, he went to the dregs of society. He said any religion. He said householders, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, householders, right? So I can tell you a personal experience of my own that I wouldn't be here if Srila Prabhupada hadn't given that instruction to my father. My father asked Srila Prabhupada the same question, so what do I do? Srila Prabhupada my parents had a interview with Srila Prabhupada, discussing, and talk went on, and then he said, well, should I move into the temple? And Srila Prabhupada said, no, don't move in the temple. Your householder, support your family. But you cook, you have arati at home, you offer whatever you cook to the deities, you take that prasadam and you share it with your office people, and you talk about Krishna to whoever we met. Same instruction that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave to Srila Prabhupada, gave to the Kurmakshetra Brahmin, right? Srila Prabhupada, the mood and mission of Srila Prabhupada, following in the footsteps of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, saying that anybody is eligible. And we have the incidents in Srila Prabhupada in the Lilamrita that talks about the time when that a man, a bum, homeless man, excuse me, not a bum, not a nice term, a homeless man comes into the temple and Prabhupada's giving class. He walks into the middle of the room, disheveled, walks through the class with a roll of toilet paper and a roll of paper towels. He comes inside, he sets a roll of toilet paper, the paper towels on the sink, the toilet paper in the bathroom, and Srila Prabhupada says, this is what he says, just see, the Swami said with satisfaction, he may not be in order, but he has just begun his devotional service. Just see how naturally it comes. This is process. Whatever we have, it doesn't matter what. We must offer it to Krishna. That's what Srila Prabhupada did. He saw, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, in one of the purports. It's the part where Haridas Thakur is talking about the Mahamantra and talking about all it's the power of it, and he says, and it talks about only certain people can chant and this and that, and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains that your birth is simply dependent upon your karma. In other words, you just did something good in your past life. You just happen to have a good birth right now. Who knows what you're going to be doing in this life, and who knows what's going to be in your next life, right? So it's just by the chance of your good karma that you're here. That has nothing to do with your intrinsic nature of being a pure devotee of the Lord naturally. That, in each and every single solitary person, is the same. That is how we are the same. We all have that intrinsic nature to be pure devotees of the Lord. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw that. He exemplified it. Srila Prabhupada saw that. He exemplified it. He showed us, again, we talked about those 5 things, right? His unlimited compassion, right? His love and compassion. We see it in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We see it in Srila Prabhupada. We see it in other, as Srila Prabhupada called Jesus Christ, Sakteshwar Avatar, which is an empowered living entity who is empowered by the Lord to bring a message to the humanity about loving not only the Lord, but everybody. From my understanding, and if anybody knows, they can correct me, when Jesus went to the desert, one of the 2 things that of many things that he came out with lessons. One was to love the Lord with your body, mind, and soul, Body, mind, and heart, I think. And also to love thy neighbor as thyself. Those two things, think about that. Compassion for every living entity, no matter who he is, and love of God. So again, examples of these, great personalities in this time of the year. It just seems so, momentous to me that these things kind of came into my purview as I was thinking about this class. Okay, so then we talked about that. We talked about any life. It doesn't matter what lifetime it was. What kind of a status in life you have. You are eligible for devotional service. And then we have the example of Pigpen. So the Pigpen of ISKCON. Now this is an amazing story. So this is narrated by Indra Swami Maharaj. And he talks about how when they were it was in Paris, and he was there in Paris, and there was a knock on the door, and they opened the door, and there's this homeless man, maybe drugged up, very disheveled looking, very dirty looking, knocking on the door and saying, "Food." And he said, "Prasadam?" Okay, wait. He goes, I want to come in. He said, no, you're too dirty. Stay outside. I'll bring you some prasadam. He came outside, brought him prasadam. He ate prasadam. They didn't see him anymore. Another time, and that same afternoon, I think, he was walking down the avenue by the Arc de Triomphe, he said, by the boulevard there in Paris, and he heard some ruffling, and this boy or young man had made himself a little place to rest in these bushes, disheveled again, jumped out and said, "Food." And he said, yeah, okay, prasadam, I'll get it for you, go away, goes back to the temple. And then later on, they bring Prabhupada out there to go for a walk. And they're walking down the thing, and this boy jumps out again, tries to catch Srila Prabhupada's feet, to touch his feet. So it's considered very beneficial to touch the feet of a holy man. So how he knew that, I don't know. How did he know that? That is a question. Let's talk. One thought I want to keep in my mind is talk about the previous lives of all these people. So he tried to touch Srila Prabhupada's lotus feet. The devotees dragged him off. They went walking on. And they were walking around. They walked around. And again, they went out somewhere, and they came back to the temple. And nobody was in the temple at that time, except the pujaris who were on the altar serving the deities. And they walked up, and the door was open. And they were wondering why the door was open, and they all walked in. And this boy again jumped out and grabbed Srila Prabhupada's feet. And the brahmachari, whoever they are, ready to drag him off. I mean, who's this, dirty, unkempt, filthy person touching Srila Prabhupada, the pure devotee? And you know what Srila Prabhupada said? This is what Srila Prabhupada said. But Prabhupada said, no, God, I hope I don't cry. I am such a crier. Okay. No, Prabhupada. Prabhupada said no. Prabhupada let Pigpen hold his feet. Prabhupada massaged Pigpen's head, saying, "That's all right, my boy. That's all right. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. It's all right, it's all right." It was completely silent. Nobody moved. We were watching, stunned. "That's all right, my boy." Then Prabhupada said, "All right, Hare Krishna." Pigpen fell back, and we greeted the deities. Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. So the deity doors are opening. The morning 7 o'clock prayers are being sang. Pigpen is sitting in the middle of the temple room. Nobody kicks him out because Srila Prabhupada just blessed him. I mean, he touched him. And, after this, they said, what do we do? Okay. Nobody dared move Pigpen out of the temple room because we'd seen how affectionate Prabhupada was towards him. Prabhupada gave class, and afterwards somebody said Pigpen should leave. But someone else said no. Prabhupada gave him some mercy. Let's see. So Pigpen, do you want to stay? Pigpen grunted. He had been taking drugs. I said, take him upstairs and clean him up. He went upstairs, had a shower, and someone helped him put on a dhoti and kurta. I didn't recognize him when he came downstairs, but he still couldn't speak well. He stayed around that day, and then he spent the night. Some devotees thought, we can't have him around. He can't do anything. But Pigpen started cleaning things. He endeared himself to the devotees by cleaning. Sometimes we'd say, Pigpen, how are you doing? And he would say, Prabhupada saved me. And that's all he would say. Later on, they were going on book distribution. And lo and behold, Pigpen stayed there. Lo and behold, when they get to the van, he's in the front seat ready to go. And they're like, what are you doing in here? Oh, he's going to cause problems. We got to get him out. And he says, Prabhupada saved me. Oh, Pigpen, all right, we'll give you a chance. You can clean the van. He said, all right. We got his few things together, put them in the van, and we left with Pigpen. When they got there, he jumped out. He put books in a book bag, and he was out there standing. And they were like, oh my God, okay, so let's let him do his thing. Let's go do our thing. So he's out there distributing books, or they don't know what he's doing. Comes back a while later with an empty book bag. They said, what did you do? Maharaj says, thinking that he'd probably dumped the books. And he said, they took them. And he said, what did you say? Prabhupada saved me. And Sanatana Goswami says that just like bell metal can be changed into coal by a chemical process, so someone who has training and diksha from the pure Vaishnava devotee of the Lord can become more than a Brahmana. He can be Vaishnava. That transformation was quick in Pigpen's heart. This transformation of the heart is what is given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, what's exemplified by Srila Prabhupada, and by all the other empowered living entities who have come to teach us how to love God and how to love every other living entity in this world. Eventually he was initiated as Rasadadas, and for many years served in France. Years later, I heard that he was still distributing books in New York. All glories to Srila Prabhupada's mercy that transforms the Jagais and Madhais of the modern era. So, you see that transformation. Now, we talked about, and a couple of things came to my mind as I was reflecting about this. I was thinking about this, It says in Scripture that Haridas Thakur was Brahma who came down because of a not a curse, but he wanted to do something, so he came down. Narada Muni was, he was a servant boy, but a servant of a servant, but before he was that, he was a Gandharva in the, heavenly planets. And okay, all that can be true or not true, but does it matter? That is the question that I ask myself. All those things can be true or not true, but we can only judge by what we see now in this time when we're around. And we see that now. We see it in Srila Prabhupada. Oh my God, I forgot to check the time. Okay. We see that in what Srila Prabhupada has given us. And, as he exemplified it, right? He gives us that knowledge. He gives us that mercy that's given. And I begin to wonder, we have no idea. We ourselves may know of people, and I can think of two off the top of my head, or we may be those people themselves who were that Pigpen at some time in this life, who were maybe that, born on the wrong sides of the track, didn't go to school, didn't get educated, don't know how to speak, don't know how to talk. But does it matter? And the other thing is, we don't know what brought them in that position in this life. If Brahma could become Haridas, if Gandharva could become a servant boy, then who knows what that person on the street must have been in his last life. Does that not give us pause for thought? Does that not make us think that we cannot judge what another person is, who another person was, why he's here now in this life like this, but can we not only show them love and compassion? Isn't that actually what Jesus Christ talked about? Isn't that actually what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu talked about? Isn't that actually what Srila Prabhupada talked about? And when we love God, we love all His children. And that is what makes, not only transforms their hearts, but it transforms our hearts. So, the other thing he gave us was the Nama Sankirtana, the chanting of the holy name of the Lord, right? Now, as I said, there are many mantras, but what's so special about this mantra? So, there is this this verse in the Bhagavatam. Let me look for it. And it's in the 12th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. It talks about this kaliyuga, this age of Kali. And it says, Kalir dosha nidhe rajan asti eko mahan gunaha kirtanad eva krishnasya mukta sangha param vrajet. My dear king, although Kali Yuga is an ocean of faults, this is still the one good quality that is apparent in this age. Simply by chanting the names of Krishna, one can become free from material bondage and be promoted to the transcendental realm. That is the power of the Hare Krishna mantra in Kali Yuga. And another thing, in Kali Yuga, in all the other yugas, and again, you can say fairy tale, mythology, but we know of transformations, right? We've seen transformations, the transformations that people have had. We might have been the transformation ourselves, right? So he said, in Kali Yuga, in all the different yugas, there were different processes for progress on the devotional path. Satya Yuga, it was austerities. Treta Yuga, it was fire sacrifice. Dvapara Yuga, it was deity worship. Kali Yuga, Sankirtana Yajna, chanting of the holy names of the Lord. And in the other yugas, if you even thought of something bad, you received karma for that, according to the law of karma. In Kali Yuga, to say something else, another secret, you don't even have to do something good. Just if you think of doing something good, you get benefit. And you don't get any negative, ding if you think of something bad. So, we sometimes think, I wish I was there when Jesus was there. I wish I was there when Srila Prabhupada was there. I wish I was there when Krishna was there. Wish I was there when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was there. But we're here right now. How did we get here? Does it not, who knows where we've been, that we are now here at this point where Srila Prabhupada is here, where some of his disciples who had personal association with him are here. And this power of the holy name, we never, like I said, we don't know what brought us to this point. And, I'll say this before I go to that. One of the things is said about the Kirtana, of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. The other thing is that it purifies the heart, okay, not only of one who chants it, but even of those who hear it chanted. Now, first of all, in the other yugas, you couldn't chant any mantra out loud. And even first of all, nobody ever did. Okay? But, and there was no guarantee of how, if you heard it wrong, and this and that, there's so many repercussions. There's nothing like that with the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. You can chant it anywhere, everywhere, at any time, however you can. In fact, what is that word? Sanketam parihasam vya. Where's my Dravida Prabhu? Sanketam parihasam vya stobam helanam eva va vaikunta nama grahanam aseshagam haram viduhu. Is that how it goes? Okay, thank you. Whether you are jokingly singing it, just doing it as like musical entertainment, or you're making fun of it. What's the other one? Is that it? Did I get it right? Insultingly. Right? Even no matter how you chant it, there's some transformation, some cleansing that's happening. That is why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave it to us and said, chant it out loud. You know what? Say it out loud, say it proud. What is that, right? So that's why he said chant it out loud. Because Srila Prabhupada, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all of the devotees who are chanting it out loud, they don't only want to transform their own hearts. They want to give the opportunity to transform everybody else's heart, including, get this, the trees, the birds, the flowers, every single thing. The vibration enters and transforms that heart, that soul. It uncovers a little bit at a time, that covering, so that in their next birth, they can elevate. And you don't know that next birth, that fish could become a human being. We don't know. We have no idea. There's that pastime of, Varsana, the fish. He throws the fish and the fish. No, when he throws the fish, the Vaishnava, not Madhvacharya. Krishna. He eats prasadam and he throws the fish into. Is it Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? He throws the prasadam into the water, and the fish are eating it, and then the Gandharvas go. Yeah. Okay. Okay, I don't remember that one, but I'm thinking of this one though. But so we don't know what's going to happen, right? We have no idea where this person has been, where this living entity has been, why he's here now in this position, right? So it behooves us to be very, very respectful of every single solitary person. I'm going to lose track of where I am and what I need to say. Okay. And, so it's the chanting of the holy name. It transformed the heart. The other thing that I read, I was listening to a class, and this kind of was personal for me, because it says in the songbook that the mridanga actually is the incarnation of the flute. Krishna's flute from the spiritual world actually incarnated as the mridanga in kaliyuga. And that is what the mridanga, which we play, is what is calling everybody to come chant. And for me, that was like, oh my God, it really hit me to the core. And I'll say why, because my father, 1968, I don't know, around that time, traveling down from Canada to California, and we were on the campus of Berkeley, UC Berkeley. We're wandering. I think my father was doing some postdoc or something that I don't remember. I don't know. I was very, very young. I was 4 years old or something like that. No, fourth. I don't remember how old it was. But anyway, he says that he heard the mridanga. He was on the campus walking around. He hears the devotees are chanting. He hears the mridanga. He follows the mridanga sound. He learned mridanga in India when he was young. He recognized the sound. Sri Hari was his Ishtadaivam. He'd always be chanting about Sri Hari, and another name of Lord Krishna. And he comes upon the devotees chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, playing the mridanga. So what did the flute do? It calls the gopis, the gopikas, and the cowherd boys to come play. That's what Krishna used his flute for. It says, is it the there's 4 different kinds of flutes, and one flute transforms. It's a whole process. It's the nectar of devotion. I don't remember, but it comes down as the mridanga, the drum. And to me, I'm like, that's what the drum is for. It calls all of us to come chant and dance and sing and dance with us. Chant the Maha Mantra. Transform your heart, right? And this process is so potent. Again, one last thing you'll say. Again, this is all myth. I don't know if I even believe about Pigpen. You cannot. But I encourage you, first thing I want, before I forget, my Guru Maharaj, Jayapataka Swami Maharaj, he had a stroke 2008. They said he would never live. He would never talk. He would never anything. He not only lived, he talks, he gives class, he travels around the world. Is that not a miracle? Giriraj Maharaj, and if anybody, Dravid Prabhu, maybe for sure, but he was given a check by his father to, leave the devotees and come back home, and he refused that, and he continued in the movement. He is one of our senior gurus. Juhu Temple came out because of his, under his direction, and that's a whole story in and of itself. I'll build you a temple. If you want to know miracles, read that book. Indra Swami Maharaj, drums along the Amazon, Varsana. He took a party, a Sankirtana party, down there up the Amazon River, and he really didn't know how he's going to do it. Miraculously, he got a canoe. Miraculously, he got supplies. And it's called Drums Along the Amazon because they would drum at the village that he was at to tell the next village that he was coming. Miracle? It doesn't have to be a miracle. But just think about our lives. Just think about the lives of people we know. Just think about the transformation that has happened, that you see happening every day. Is that not itself a miracle? Thank you very much. If there are any questions or comments, please do come forth. Yes, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu Guru. And can you please announce your name, just so I know who you are? Of course, I know Guru Krishna, but even for others, please announce your name. If you don't mind, if you feel shy, you don't have to, but I would appreciate it. I'm a real people person, so I want to know who I'm talking to. Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, I'm Guru Krishna Das. So I was in Vrindavan.
Yes.
I don't remember what year, maybe 2017 or 18. And I understood there was a man at hospice. This is the hospice that Giriraj Maharaj built in Vrindavan. It's near the Yamuna River. So many devotees go there to leave their body. So I thought, let me go visit this man. I don't know who he is, but it's one of the things I do now is I go see them. So I went there, paid my obeisances, and told him my name. And we were having a little conversation. He told me who he was. And then I said, so where did you join? And he goes, I joined in Paris, France. And so I said, oh, what years? And then he told me the years. And then I said, well, you must know Pigpen then. He said, I am Pigpen.
Okay.
I am Pigpen. And later I understood that he was distributing books with Dramila in New Orleans for many years. So you can believe this story about Pigpen.
Okay. There we go.
I met him. He's absolute pure devotee, leaving his body in Vrindavan. True story.
Okay. Say that again.
Initiated name?
Rasada. Rasada Das. Yes. Oh, one sec. They're going to give you them. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see you. Yeah, right here, and then they'll come to you. Yes, Paul. Yeah, please announce your.
So there are many
Pama,
more
your name,
examples.
Your name.
My name is Pavamana
Thank you, Prabhu.
Jai. So we have, examples here from San Diego. Anybody know Bhakta Irving?
Oh, yeah.
And he got initiated years later. He had club feet, and he joined the Padayatra, where they walked all over India. He hoofed it all over India into the Himalayas, and when he joined here, he was Gunagraj Maharaj's first bhakta. And he had a lot of problems with his body and so on, until sometimes he would be asked to, go away for some time. So then they would find him at Balboa Park sleeping in one of the bathrooms, right? So anyway, kind of a very unusual person. But there's one devotee who is not coming back when his life is over. So, Hare Krishna.
We see so many. Yes, right there.
Hare Krishna. Regarding, my name is Mohan Vilas Das.
Oh, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Hare, well, nice to see you. I think I met Rasada in Rio de Janeiro, 1986.
Okay,
Yes.
more people know that.
Yeah, he was a very nice devotee.
Okay.
But he had some interesting, he did something very interesting in Brazil. But anyways, but what about to share is you were mentioned that Srila Prabhupada was picking plates from the hippies. Okay, there was a man, he became devotee, but there was a man who used to go to take prasadam. He knew the time precisely. Take prasadam and leave. Not even pick the plate. And one day, Krishna or Maya tricked him. Okay, there were a lot of hippies, and then he was taking prasadam, and he did not realize that he was alone with Srila Prabhupada in the room, face to face. And when he just looked out, Prabhupada was just right there. He always knew when to leave, but that moment he messed up. And when he saw Prabhupada, he said, I can't escape here. I got to say something. I say, Swamiji, can I help you to clean the dishes? And Prabhupada said, I've been praying to Krishna to send me somebody to help me. and he became devotee, by the way.
He became a devotee. Excellent. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Any other comments, questions? Yes, Dravida. Back to Dravida.
So my name is Dravida Das, and when you told the story about Indradumna Maharaj and his adventure up the Amazon, of course, he's become famous. He wrote a book about it. When he came back from that, I was in the Miami temple at that time working on the books, and this was his first adventure as sannyasi. He took sannyas, came back to America, and then he went to saw Ridhyananda Maharaj and asked him, what should I do as a sannyasi? And he suggested go to Brazil. And so he went to Brazil, to Manaus. Manaus is right in the middle of the Amazon. I also landed, when I was in Miami, we went to Brazil. And Indradumna Maharaj saw, it was a Sunday feast, and he saw a very nicely dressed lady, I think it was, dancing in the back, and really relishing the holy name. He asked, who is that? So that's the governor's wife. And so he said, oh, maybe we can get, and so he met the governor, and he proposed this idea of getting a boat and going up the Amazon, and he agreed. And so then they had, they were on this boat, but as you say, they had the little rowboats go up the tributaries of the Amazon. So he went up with a small crew. I remember seeing a picture, because there are piranhas in that water. And so all the devotees were right in the middle of the boat, They were going like this. They weren't like putting their hand in the river or anything. So he gets in, and he's going on the way. They had a system. They would cook like anything, and go up, and they'd be chanting, and they'd meet the natives up there. And there usually was a priest or someone who was already preaching to them, arranging. So he's leading the procession. Maybe there's 12 devotees or something, and there's just some kind of a nest of spiders or something that's only in the Amazon. There's a million things only in the Amazon.
Yeah.
And he ran into it, and somehow he fell down, and he had been bitten, and it was like a serious thing. He was struck. Something happened with his motor. And the devotees said, "What's going to happen? What's going to happen?" So there's no question of getting back to the boat and going back down the river to go to the emergency. But the natives, they knew, the medicine man, they knew exactly what was there in the Amazon to treat that, and he was treated by that. And he told me that they went up and they would go inside, and the people loved them, And on the way back, when they finally came down the Amazon, people would gather and they'd be chanting Hare Krishna on the banks, and reading them. It was a wonderful thing. And that was his first engagement. He became known as the Indiana Jones, of
So now we have a big
sannyasis.
fan. We have a big fan of ISKCON. We have an Indiana Jones of ISKCON too.
And then he got an inheritance, and that's how he started the Polish tour. And it's been going on ever since. Very wonderful.
Very
And
nice.
Shamali became a devotee from that.
Yes,
Orange.
one of our own. Yes. Very, thank you so much for adding all that. So, like I said, any questions? Anything from our, No? Okay, well then let's have kirtan, yeah? Yes. Time to chat and dance. Transform our hearts. Thank you. Oh, yes. Yes.